Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. So excited for my next guest. His name is Aaron Peterson. Aaron's been an active real estate investor for over 20 years. He's done everything from fix and flipping properties to development and short-term rentals. He's also the founder and president of Achieve Today. It's an education and technology company that educates individuals and organizations on the power of real estate investing as well as personal development. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, Benson, thank you, man. Love what you do and excited to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I've been meaning to have a deeper conversation with you for years now about this amazing company that you've created over 10 years ago. It's a decade now, which is a pretty important milestone. Have you guys done anything important as far as celebrating that decade milestone?
You know what? We haven't. And it would have been January 2014 is when we incorporated. And we didn't do anything special. We obviously had some internal stuff that we did. But man, we're just excited about the mission. And we just continue to kind of push forward on all the different things that we're doing. And that to us is what keeps us excited and motivated to keep going forward.
Well, tell me about your mission. It's a pretty unique concept.
Yeah.
A lot of education companies, mentors, coaches, they focus on, education and the mindset and, those sorts of things are kind of an afterthought. And
yeah,
a lot of times they'll tackle those down the road when they figure out that their programs aren't sticking or they're having trouble selling product. And they're like, well, what's not working here? And so they go and they are like, well, people have limiting beliefs and people don't believe that they deserve it. They have all these things that stop them, but this is a core piece of your company and your mission.
Absolutely. And so our mission is to help people realize their full potential, right? And so in doing that, so I've been in this space for the education space, like coaching, for probably the last 24 years. And we educated people in a lot of aspects of wealth building. And real estate was probably the main one, the one that people gravitated towards the most, the one that they liked the most. And we saw great things happening there. But it was probably in a previous company that I was a part of with my partners, we saw that these people loved the wealth building side of education. However, it felt like something was missing, right? And you talk to most business owners, and when they start to see some success, they continue to want to work on themselves, right? Kind of from the inside out. And I've heard it said that the most important real estate you'll ever own is between your own two ears. And so being able to work on that has just been vital. So what we started to do is we started to work with some thought leaders in this personal development space, the self-improvement space. And we thought, man, it's amazing to see these individuals come in that they have all different backgrounds in their life. But one thing they want in common is they want to improve and develop. So we were educating these individuals on self-development, self-improvement. And our philosophical approach to that is kind of twofold, helping people identify and remove self-limiting beliefs. You talk to people, and a lot of times when somebody isn't reaching their full potential, they're a lot of times their own worst enemy. So they might say, well, I can't do this, or I'm never going to be like Benson. He's different. And so they're limiting themselves on what they can do. So if we can help them identify that and understand how to get rid of some of those limiting beliefs, that's a great start. And then we want to help them, view life through a different lens, right? A lot of times people will get discouraged or frustrated because they feel like they failed. When I can't remember which amazing thought leader was, but it said, you should be really good at failing, right? Because that means you're a step closer to success. So understanding that failure is just a path towards success. And so helping people just switch that view. And then we obviously want to elevate their performance. Most people we work with are performers. And if we can elevate their performance just a little bit, we see great things happening. And so when we did that, we saw lots of success with these individuals. And when you improve your mindset, everything else starts to improve, right? Your work, your relationships. So we started to add on to our wealth building students some personal development sessions. And we just saw these individuals that were just kind of doing awesome, just really accelerate because they're working on themselves as well as on their business, and most of them real estate investing.
Right. So through all those years, did you keep track of, trending ideas? Like, was there one like limiting belief or a set of limiting beliefs that really kind of stuck out above the
Yeah,
rest?
great question. Probably the one that we see the most is I'm not good enough or I'm not deserving, right? And a lot of times these limiting beliefs will form at a young age, right? It could be a loving parent, it could be a well-intentioned educator, it could be just something that develops. Like I could go to my own son and be like, hey, bud, he might be in second or third grade, like, you know what, us Petersons just aren't that good in math, right? So don't have high expectations. All of a sudden he does bad on the math test. What's he thinking? Dad's right, right? I'm not good, and that might be my issue, but I don't need to project that on my kid. I remember one time, and it's funny that I still remember this, but I think it was the third grade. We were doing a singing thing, and I remember the teacher got upset at me because she's like, "You're joking around," and I'm singing my heart out. And I'm not a good singer, but from that age on, I was not a good singer, right? Just because I think she probably thought I was goofing off because I don't sing very well. Um, but sometimes those are projected on individuals, and then they start to develop that. And it's the whole concept of like, hey, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't buy everything. If that's said to somebody at a young age, they start to develop that limiting belief that money shouldn't be coming into them, or it shouldn't be abundant, or there's not enough wealth for everybody, or whatever it might be. But I'm not deserving and I'm not good enough definitely are the most prevalent limiting beliefs that we run across from individuals. And like I said, a lot of times those start at a young age and they've just been enforced and developed and bought into over the course of a long period of time. So it's actually pretty empowering to watch individuals be able to recognize that and say, I have been buying into that and I don't have to anymore. And we have amazing coaches that will kind of walk them through a couple of procedures and steps to be able to do that.
So have you ever really dove into that whole concept of nature versus nurture? Because that's kind of what this is, right? Which is like,
Yeah.
okay, we're born who we are. We got kind of these foundational things that are inside of us. And, the outside influences in our lives can push us in one way or another, but we really are who we are. Like,
Yeah.
what are your beliefs on that?
You know what? So I've really been intrigued by this topic. Just I have three adopted children, right? I have five total children. Three of them are adopted, and two of them have a Hispanic heritage, right? And so it has been one of those things like, is it nature or nurture? And I definitely see. It's funny. My second youngest, he's half Mexican and half his grandparents were born in Czechia, the old Czech Republic, right? But it's funny, he's got a lot of that Eastern European in him. Where I always tell people, I'm like, he's mostly European, right? Even though he's half Mexican, he acts kind of Eastern European, which, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but he's a little bit condescending, a little bit quick, a little bit distant, a little bit reserved. Whereas my youngest, he's 75% Mexican, and he's all Mexican, right? He's parties, fiestas, family, food. He's just everything about it, right? And so I think there's definitely some nurture into it, but I think even doesn't matter necessarily where everybody comes from. Whatever they are, whatever their authentic self is, they can always improve themselves, right? They can always elevate and level up, even though they might come out packaged in a certain package, so to speak. They can always level up and improve in that area and really fight not to buy into limitations that they might have been put on them or that they put on themselves.
Right. So you got some great coaches that work with you, like you said, who can help these people develop these skills of self-improvement.
Yeah.
And, like the olden days when people were having issues, they would go see a shrink, right?
Yeah.
A psychiatrist, somebody who they could talk to about their problems. I did some training personal development wise some time back with an organization called PSI. PSI,
Okay.
you may have heard of it. It's similar to
Yep.
like Landmark.
Yeah.
And so it's all based off of experiential learning. And it goes back even further to like the concept of Think and Grow Rich. That's where the concepts were born out of. And I remember these like guided sessions where we would sit down and there was a facilitator who would help us peel the onion and like verbally walk us through, and we would use almost like meditation like sessions to really dig down deep to see if we could uncover what was causing these issues.
Yeah.
Do you guys do anything like that, or?
Yes, it's very, very, very similar to what we do, right? We have, and I don't know everybody's program. One thing that we found that we really kind of stick to as part of our philosophy when it comes to helping people in these different areas is we're big believers in one-on-one coaching. So we definitely have group sessions, but everybody who comes in and gets an educational program from us, it's going to consist of a certain amount of one-on-one coaching sessions, just because we feel that needle can be moved so much more, because every person, even though they might have similar limiting beliefs, they might have been caused by different things. And sometimes in group sessions, we don't necessarily, people might be a little bit nervous or scared. Their limiting beliefs might come out there to be able to say, here's the issue that I have. But one-on-one with the coach is solely focused on helping them and develop them. They really open up, but very similar to what you experienced, just on a one-on-one level. It sounded like yours was in a group setting, or was it one-on-one?
It was a mixture.
Okay.
It was
Perfect.
a mixture. So it was large groups, smaller groups, and then sometimes people would break off into like one-on-ones, or
Okay.
The facilitator would find somebody who was wanting to really dig deep, and he'd be like, can I work with you? Right.
Yeah.
And he would
Yeah.
focus
Yeah.
on that person for like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and everybody would observe. And what I found too is like sometimes like one of the limiting beliefs is like has to do with other people. So like helping them to break down those limiting beliefs by exposing themselves and being vulnerable
Yes.
in front of others were big breakthroughs for them.
Absolutely.
And we live in a world where you're always having to work with others. So like being able to be vulnerable and work through that process well with others is part
Yep.
of it.
Exactly. No, and we've seen good success there too. And a lot of times, some of the homework assignments the coaches will give them might be just that, right? You need to go talk to this person. You felt this, be vulnerable with them, be transparent, open up to them, and then they report back the next session. And so, yeah, we've seen just great breakthroughs. It's funny on the personal development side, and because we also educate on real estate investing, right? But we have success stories that come in like probably a couple times a day on the personal development side, right? And even people that are in both, like they get the one-on-one sessions for personal development and the one-on-one sessions for real estate. Um, a lot of times, when even we have groups that started in real estate, that's where they're excited about, because we actually do fulfillment for a lot of thought leaders out there, right? There's groups out there that are have a lot of people raising their hands, say, I'm interested in what you're doing in your real estate education, but they don't want to deal with one-on-one coaching. They might do some group sessions, but they'll send them over to us, and they'll even want them to get some mindset coaching that we do. And it's funny, some of those people that come through the door through real estate investing will pen some of the coolest success stories about the breakthroughs that they've had on personal development. So we love matching the two together. We just feel like that leads to the biggest breakthroughs and the greatest success that somebody can have to realize their full potential.
So, I mean, this is kind of a dumb question, but I mean, it's worth asking. So do you think mindset plays a bigger role in real estate success than the technical knowledge, or is it just a balance of both?
That's another great question, Benson. I think it really is a balance of both, right? I mean, a part of people might, because the reason I say both is because somebody might get really well educated on real estate, but they might be so paralyzed by fear and going out and doing it that they never do anything. And so having kind of that confidence or the ability to say, listen, you can accomplish anything you want. You're kind of put on this earth to realize amazing results in your life. There's nothing holding you back other than yourself. You can go out and do it. But by the same token, if somebody's like all jazzed and excited, they can do it. And if you say, well, which one's maybe more important? I remember early on when I got started in real estate, I had no clue about real estate other than I was a little bit excited, but I had a little bit of confidence and energy and excitement and belief in myself that I started doing it, and I started to learn as I was doing, right? And I don't know if I'd always recommend that to everybody, but it's something that worked out for me. But I definitely think both play the optimal role in helping them see success.
So somebody came to you today, or a coach did, and
Yep.
they were going to follow kind of like standard practice, and they were struggling with, self-doubt or feeling stuck. What's the very first thing that you guys would tell them to do?
You know what? honestly, so and you're probably referring to maybe somebody who's already in the real estate game and maybe they're not seeing the success they wanted to. Is that kind of the scenario?
Yeah, well, they subscribed to Achieve Today.
Oh
They're
yeah.
in the system, and it's just they've expressed that they've got some self doubt. They don't know if they can do
Okay.
it,
Okay.
right? Or they're stuck. Maybe they hit a plateau.
Yep.
What would be some ways to get them out of that place?
Yeah, great question. I mean, obviously, we'd set them up with one of our mindset coaches, and that mindset coach would go in there and just really do an analysis with them, say, and truly try to help them understand what their thoughts are creating, right? Like, so at a deep level, where are you at? What do you think about this area of your life? What do you think about this area of your life? Why do you have that? And just a couple of why questions to go a little bit below the surface and finding out what truly is it that might be impeding them from maybe having a breakthrough or success. Because once you get, I mean, surface level questions are going to get surface level answers, but if you can go below the surface, you're going to start to pull some things out, being like, well, you know what? I tried this years ago and I fell on my face. Or I had a neighbor who got started in real estate in 2007 and lost their shirt, right? Or whatever it might be. Or that I can't buy a home right now. Interest rates are so high, prices are so high. What can I do, right? And so just being able to dive deep in those questions is what we would try to do to find out what is it, what fear, what limiting belief is holding them back, what mental block is stopping them from progressing, and then try to reverse engineer and say, listen, this is what got you there. Let's find out, let's don't buy into that. Let's go through a couple of exercises, kind of like you did with some meditation or some affirmation, just some things that'll help you understand that this isn't who you are, and your higher self is going to break through that. And then just take them through those exercises and then have them, jump in with kind of a new configured thought process about their self and what they can do.
Right. So a lot of people say they want to improve, but they don't do the things that they need to do to get better.
Right.
And with coaching, a lot of that time that has to do with, like, there's a trust issue with the person that they're working with, the facilitator coach. And they have to give them permission to ask those tough questions. Like, do you guys have a protocol for how they build that initial trust with the coach and with the students so that they can make those breakthroughs?
Yeah, that's another great question. Holy cow, Benson. So yeah, the very first session that a student would have with one of our coaches is really going to be kind of that exploratory session. Like, listen, and the coach's approach is all about them and their approach. Like, listen, I don't have a cookie cutter program. I'm not going to take you through a series of this. Today we're doing this. Today we're doing that. It's all about you and the moment you're in your situation to help you. What does success look like for you? We're going to be talking over the next 8 weeks, 12 weeks, meeting every week for those next 8 or 12 weeks. And what does success look like for you at the end of those 8 weeks or 12 weeks, however long it is? And let the student start to talk, right? And you're going to find out a lot from that. Because when the student really opens up and says, listen, this is what I've been struggling with, this is where I want to be, at that point, everything going forward is all about the student. And so that type of trust is just inherently built from the get-go, because it's not just something being jammed down their throat, but it's something to improve them every step along the way to where they see themselves. And that's a big part of it, right? That visualization of what success is for them down the road. So it's kind of a twofold. They're already creating in their mind where they see themselves, 8 weeks or 12 weeks from now. And then they're telling the coach that, and they're getting everybody on the same page. So all of a sudden, they're working towards that optimal scenario at the end of the program.
So without, disclosing, private information, do you have any examples of some people that just had major breakthroughs?
Yeah, we do. And I could share some awesome success stories. And the cool thing is our company, we do this mindset person development coaching for people that are like real estate investors, for people that are investing in the stock market, even for network marketing organizations, individuals that educate on that area, and even e-commerce, people that are starting like an e-commerce business. We do this for that. We had somebody came through the other week. She was from the UK, and she was had been following a network marketing trainer for a long period of time. And she decided to jump into a program, right? It was a smaller program probably about $3,000. Um, and the next day, she'd called in and said, I just can't move forward with this. I can't do it. And, we called her back. One of our consultants called her back, said, listen, I understand that if this isn't for you, um, that's fine. But remember, we talked about where you see yourself and that you needed help to get to that optimal area. And we want to be a catalyst for that. She decided to move forward with it. And literally 3 weeks into it, she had the biggest breakthroughs that she'd ever had in her business, in her organization. And she gave the most awesome video review that we'd had in quite a while. I mean, we get a fair amount of those every week, but this was really special because, single mom, and I get it, right? Just nervous to move forward on something, but she'd taken that risk and took the chance to work on herself and improve herself, and it paid off. And I love seeing that. It's hard to show up to work and be upset, angry, depressed, frustrated if your goal every day is to help people improve and be a better version of themselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you're working with people who are in these professional settings, right? Like you mentioned, it's professionals that are doing stuff in real estate investing and
Yeah.
Other wealth building type activities.
Yeah.
Many years ago, and I haven't done it recently, but I mentored at-risk youth.
Okay.
We would use these experiential learning strategies to help these young people, have breakthroughs at a younger age. And you do a lot of work with kids,
Yeah.
right? You coach,
Yep.
wrestling, and some time back you did a TED Talk
Yeah.
called Sense of Amelia, where you highlighted the joy and the authenticity that children have at such a young age. Do you do any work with kids outside of these things that you're doing in your personal life, or do you guys have any plans of working with young people to help them break through so they don't have to wait till they're adults before they figure out they're being held back by their own limiting beliefs?
Yeah, man, another good question. We actually have a program that we call Teen Track, right? And before COVID, we were in a handful of different middle schools, and this was like a week worth of curriculum that was taught in middle school, and it was all around mental health. It was around conflict resolution. It was around limiting beliefs. It was around some of the mental challenges that youth face at that age, anxiety and depression. And it was a week-long program, and the students loved it. But as it wasn't the main part of our business, it was an auxiliary thing, kind of like you said, kind of a labor of love that we wanted to do. And as COVID hit, a lot of schools were like, no, we're not having kids in school, and we don't have funds for that right now. So we kind of reverted back to our old business, but we still have that program, Teen Track. We still have a handful of parents that will buy that and go through that. We haven't jumped back into the schools like we did, but it is something that I love. And I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons I coach wrestling and I coach football for kids, freshman football, and then the varsity kids from freshman to 12th grade. And a big part of coaching, I believe, is just helping them instill belief and confidence and self-love about themselves. And so I talk quite a bit about that, just intermingled through the instruction that we do in those different disciplines. But I'm a big fan of it. And man, if we had more time, we'd love to resurrect that Teen Track, because it was definitely something where we felt could really move the needle for kids at that age.
Oh yeah. That sounds really, really powerful. That's a goal of mine down the road, is to have a business school for youth to learn financial literacy and overcoming limiting beliefs at a younger age, and set themselves up better for life, whether it's college or entrepreneurship or whatever they decide to do. Just being parents, right?
I love that.
It would be a challenge for people. But are there any lessons that you've learned by working with kids that you're like, oh wow, this would be great for the adults too, like that you took and implemented and to achieve today?
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned that TED Talk, the essence of Emilio, and my youngest is Emilio, right? We adopted him through foster care when he was 4 years old, and just, I mean, I knew a lot. At least I thought I knew a lot about kind of youth and young kids, and I also I'm a believer, right? I love that, Christ always refers to be as little children. And I think a big part of that is children inherently have some of those characteristics that we lose as adults. And if we could get back to being like a child with some of those characteristics, I think that helps us become the best version of ourselves and fully realize our full potential. I mean, just back to the story when Emilio, when we had adopted him, you can imagine a kid who's been in, foster care numerous times, and all of a sudden he's at another home, right? And but happy, energetic. We go put him down in kind of a room that we had set aside for him, and it's the first time like, hey, all right, hey, little dude, good to see you. We're excited to have you here. Have a good night. And he replies back, good night, Dad, love you, right? And so you think like, oh my gosh, that's pretty special that a kid who's been through all that still has love in his heart. And I think that's how it is with I think that's how it is with children, is they inherently love. They don't have any prejudice. They don't have any preconceived notions about if this is a good person, that's a bad person. And obviously you've got to be aware of your surroundings and situations, but that's kind of what I was talking about in that TED Talk, is that it's just so powerful and reiterated to me that children come packaged in a way where there's, like I said, no prejudice. They always are learning and improving. They don't bite into, I mean, a kid, when he starts to walk, he falls down a million times before he walks. He doesn't be like, oh man, I'm a horrible walker, right? And then they crawl, and then they walk, and then they run. And it's just like, there's got to be something, and there might even be studies on it, between the ages of 1 and 4, that children learn so much so fast. And even if you put a child into like a full immersion language, by the time they come out of that, they're speaking 2 languages perfectly. I just think part of it has to do with their mindset, that they believe that they can learn and accomplish everything. I mean, you ask a 6 or 7-year-old what they want to be when they grow up, there's no limitations. Whether it's a football player, an astronaut, whatever it might be, there's no limiting beliefs on what they can do. And I think that fuels so much of their ability to learn and grow so quickly. And then all of a sudden, those limitations, unfortunately, start to be placed on them. They start to buy into some of those. And then it can be pretty debilitating as an adult if it's something they've bought into. But we try to take that part of a child where they have like those no limitations, that abundance of love, and just those high vibrational feelings of love and gratitude. And, they're always saying, thank you for the most part. If we can instill those back in adults or hang on to those, we usually see really good results on the adult side by incorporating those things that children come packaged into this world with.
Yeah. It's very interesting, the dichotomy there, because there's so much positivity that can come out of it, but because they're so vulnerable, especially in ages 4 and younger, like they're so influential to negative energy and to the negative thoughts that can break in, and even at a subconscious level. Like sometimes people are so damaged when they're adults, they don't even know where it comes from. They just know they have these things, and the coach or the facilitator can try to peel the onion to figure out what it is, but sometimes you just can't find out what it was, and you can't tie it back to a single incident or a single comment or a person or an event. How do you balance that? Do you have advice for because this is really like a parenting thing? Right? Like this is like, parents really need to be very intentional about raising children and making sure that during those vulnerable periods, like you're pouring positivity into them instead of the negativity.
You know what? And God, I'm not a parenting expert by any means. And there's days where some of my kids, I'm like, man, what in the world are you doing? And other days I'm like, oh man, they're awesome, right? But I it's kind of the two rules that I have for kids, my kids, and even the kids I coach, is I love them and I tell them the truth, right? And I think kids understand if they know that I care about them and that I want the absolute best for them, that they are I mean, I can have a tough conversation with them because it comes from a place of love, right? It comes from a place of authenticity where they know that I am just trying to help them be better and develop because I love them. And so from a parenting standpoint, I think especially at that young age, if you can be positive and if you really show them love. I mean, kids are smart, right? They know when somebody is showing them love, when they are being really taken care of. And I think another thing with kids is, I think, helping them focus on effort more so than result. I think a lot of times, and that's a mistake that I've made sometimes, where you really praise them for the end result. And so sometimes they think that that's the most important thing, but a lot of times praising on that effort is really what helps them to continue to striving for something a lot of times is greater than the end result, right? Because we're putting in that effort, and that's part of the goal process. And so, like I said, that's probably, like I said, that's not parenting advice that I claim to be an expert on, but that have worked fairly well for me.
So in your career, in this expertise of helping people through personal development and wealth generation, you've seen, people fail, but you've also seen a lot of people succeed.
Oh yeah.
And have you been able to identify any of the main characteristics of these successful people that are just like above and beyond other attributes that will really help people succeed?
Yeah, that's another good question, and I don't know if we've finally ever formulated it exactly like that, but really, people, and this is not just in our business, but in life too, just people who have a strong belief that no matter what they go through, that they're going to persevere and eventually find success, almost like optimism, right? And not an overdo it type of optimism, just an optimism in themselves that if they continue on the path, that they are going to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And so I don't know if you call it grit, if you call it optimism, if you call it just a belief in self, a positive self-talk. And obviously, I think a big part of that is when you believe and you're optimistic that no matter what you go through, that you're going to see good things at the end of it. I think you vibrate and attract those things into your life, right? I mean, all the famous books that have been written, whether it's Think and Grow Rich or As a Man Thinketh, a lot of it, what you believe in your mind and conceive can happen. Obviously, you can achieve it. I think that's a quote by Earl Nightingale. But if, like I said, a big part of that is just seeing that and believing that that is going to happen, whatever success looks like for you, and then attracting those things into your life. I'm a big believer in that, right? That just putting that intention out there and working towards it. And there's no doubt you're going to have roadblocks and there's going to be challenges and tough things that come up. But if you absolutely stick with it, amazing things will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was reading a story recently, or it popped up in one of my feeds, and you were just talking about optimism and positivity and how they're great characteristics to have, but there's some negative characteristics that they've been able to identify with like high performers.
Yeah.
I think this particular article was about like high performing CEOs, like some of the most successful in history, guys like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
That people hated working for.
Yeah.
Right, because they just weren't not nice. They were not nice to the people they worked with.
Right.
There was negativity in the air, and people felt it. What's your belief on that? That did they just squeak through? Right? Are they the fringe, or should they be the people that we strive to be?
Another great question, and even a great philosophical debate or topic on that, because I think they obviously had some of those characteristics that make people successful, right? Like that. I believe that like a Steve Jobs or some of those people had so much self-belief and perseverance and drive and a very intentional focus that they were going to make it happen. But part of me is, and this is my own philosophical approach, if I go through and I'm that person, I don't want to be that successful, right? Because success in my mind, I mean, it depends on what your goal is. I bet to Steve Jobs' success was seeing Apple go to where he knew it could be, right? And outside of that, just very myopic approach, it didn't matter what happened, right? But for me, success is, my family, my spirituality, my work life, my physical life. And so I know some of those people, they don't even buy into the physical aspect of things, right? They are doing damage to their body mentally and physically by just a very laser focused on something. And so I definitely think that those individuals um, that would fall under that category have many of the attributes that are fantastic for seeing success in their life. But I think that that's all that they cared about. And some of these auxiliary things that people really consider to be the most important, obviously, are left by the wayside. And for me, I would never want to leave that by the wayside because it's that important to me.
Yeah, you're right. It is interesting how people, the hustle mentality has become so popular these days among
Yeah.
the entrepreneurial circles. Like, I'm hustling, grinding, right? These are words that people
Yeah.
use to show others that they're doing the work, right? But you there's two things that can be left behind, which is, you talked about, the health, right? And that's mental as well as
Yeah.
physical, that often get neglected when people are really grinding and striving for success. Is that something that you guys address in your coaching? Is like, pay attention to what your body's telling you. Like,
Yeah.
don't overdo it. Like, yes, we want to succeed, but don't push so hard that you're going to jeopardize your future well-being.
Yeah. We do, because a lot of times, I mean, what do they say? Like, man, when your health isn't 100%, nothing else matters, right? It's like when something happens to you health wise, really, there's nothing else that you're worrying about. You're worrying about your health. And so we do try that. Now, we don't do health coaching or nutrition coaching or personal training or anything like that. But we let people know that, like, on the mental aspect of things, like, there can be some traits and some things that you do taking too far can have a negative impact on your psyche, right? Can Because it can separate you from other things that are important or matter in your life. And so we do try to stress that. And part of it is like when we do our coaching, we have our one-on-one coaching, and the coaches focus 100% on that individual. But we also do weekly group coaching calls. We actually do daily group coaching calls, and we just have a topic of the week. And the topic of the week, I know just recently had been kind of um, having balance in your life, right? Kind of a work-life balance. And for some people, they might say, I'm all about the hustle or the work, right? But eventually, I think that catches up to them. And there might be a few unique individuals out there where it doesn't catch up to them, and they're just go, 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 go. And I've known a couple that I'm just like, holy cow, I don't know how they are up till midnight or 2 in the morning and up in the morning and just constantly going. I don't know what type of additional things they're taking to keep them laser focused like that or going. But like I said, for me, I think that could potentially, for most people, be a dangerous path to follow.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. If I was to consider both those options, like having no hustle in me, but or having hustle, I
Yeah,
think I'd rather have the hustle mentality to just trying to figure out how to harness it,
right.
rather than being the opposite and like having to figure out how to develop the hustle and develop that,
Sure.
like, I'm going to do anything mentality. Like, right. I think that would be a better way. But it's like you said, nature versus nurture. Like, some people just have it and others
Yep.
don't, have to work on it a little bit harder.
Yep. Exactly.
So let's talk more about Achieve today, because it seems like you've got it, you tweaked your business model recently. Maybe, I don't know how recently, but more of like a B2B approach
Yeah.
rather than B2C. And so you're working with more like thought leaders and coaches and mentors and people who are attracting people in, and you're helping with the fulfillment and the facilitation of the programs.
Yeah.
How is that? How did that tweak happen?
So we still have that aspect of B2C. Um, and there's kind of two parts to our business. So obviously in the coaching space that we all exist in, there's the lead generation, there's the sales, and the fulfillment of what's sold to these individuals. And one thing we've never been professed good at, or have even dipped much of our toe into that space until recently, is the lead generation side of things, right? And so we work with thought leaders or coaches out there in the space that they've spent a ton of time developing how to find people that are raising their hand and say, I'm interested in learning what you're teaching. And so they spend so much time doing that. Just let's stay in the real estate space, but you have somebody who has really developed a great program in real estate, and they've now got people that they're making their money in real estate, but now they're like, I can teach other people how to do this at a very high level. So all of a sudden, they take these individuals, and they bring them in. They're like, okay, now I've got to sell them into my coaching or something, right? And then there becomes so many that come in, they can't get to all of them, right? All the people that are raising their hand, they can't get to all of them. And then once they've sold them, they've got to be the one who fulfills it as well. So there's some thought leaders that say, listen, I don't want to do the sales and I don't want to do the fulfillment because I am one person and I didn't get into this to go hire a bunch of salespeople, a bunch of coaches, a bunch of customer service, a bunch of accounting, a bunch of all this stuff is not why I got into it. It's taken me away from my first love, which is real estate investing. So you have those people who will say, listen, Aaron, your company, I'll just hand you over the hand raisers and you get them into my program and some one-on-one coaching that you guys offer, and you fulfill that, and I'll fulfill some group coaching, and it's a perfect marriage, and we do a revenue share. But there's some people who say, you know what, I've been in this industry, I know how to get people to raise their hand, plus I have a good solid core of individuals, of sales consultants that I've worked with that are doing the sales, but I want these individuals to get one-on-one coaching, so I'm going to have your group just fulfill the one-on-one coaching. And so those are the two different ways we work with the groups. We either do everything after the hand raise, from sales to fulfillment to customer service to doing the commission reports back to the thought leader, to where a lot of people are now just utilizing us. We've seen this part of our business really grow, where people say, listen, I want you guys to do one-on-one coaching. And I want that to be a mix of real estate coaching, one-on-one coaching, and mindset coaching. And we charge a per session rate for those individuals. And it's all white labeled. It's their coaches, it's their fulfillment, it's everything. So nobody sees Achieve Today. We're just kind of on the, behind the scenes, fulfilling that for those individuals. And we kick out success story after success story. And the other thing that's interesting is, like, when somebody is working one-on-one with a coach, we see less cancellations, less, refunds, more engagement. Plus we see, people buying more stuff afterwards from the coach, right? Whether it's a tax and entity setup or something like that really works well because they have a lot of belief in what they're doing. They're working with a one-on-one coach. And so that's really the two areas that we help individuals, either the sales and coaching or just the one-on-one coaching.
Another thing I really like about your company is the technology backend, where you've got this, learning management system, an LMS, similar to like a Kiabi or one of those other Thinkific or these other platforms that, some coach or mentor would have to spend a lot of time going out and, learning how the system works and setting it up and, tying everything together and wiring up, their education in there. And you guys handle all that too. Like, you got an entire back end that distributes their education and has accountability and all the systems and processes they need, all built in and white labeled.
Yes. No, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Vince, because, when we first got started, part of the fulfillment process, usually we try to give, when we fulfill a student, we try to provide them 4 different things, right? We try to provide them the one-on-one coaching sessions, the group coaching sessions, and then access to a coaching resource line. Because let's say they had a one-on-one session today and a one-on-one session next Monday, but something came up on Friday where they're trying to get a deal done. They could call into our coaching hotline and speak to a live coach. And then that 4th thing is having a platform where they could go and get access to all the things that they need, whether it's group calls, whether it is agreements, right? Real estate agreements, whether it's educational tracks and mindset and personal development. And so we built a platform probably about 8 years ago, and we've been working on it ever since to impact it. So we built it from the ground up. It's not built on any Thinkific or Kajabi or anything like that. And so we own the code, and it is white labeled, right? So there's groups that could utilize this platform to put all their education on there. We have over 500 micro courses on there, everything in real estate investing to mindset to professional development, time management, and leadership skills. And somebody could utilize all of our content or none of our content or some of it, right? And we've even built some AI into it where somebody can go assess themselves or rate themselves in the 8 different areas of their life. And based on how they rate themselves, this AI, this artificial intelligence, is going to suggest courses and videos and goals that will help them in that area. And we even have a texting feature to it where the AI will text somebody and ask, how are you doing today? How's your real estate investing going? And depending on how they answer, kicking them back a course or a video that might be just what they need at that moment. So we've developed that as part of our fulfillment process, that we've seen a lot of groups just utilize that software as well, that IQ tech. It's ICUE.tech is the technology part of the business.
That's amazing. I like that new feature you added. It's like turning the accountability function on autopilot, leveraging the AI. So based off of what they said they wanted, you could send them accountability check-ins through via text to be like, hey, how are things going in this thing that you said you wanted to fix?
Exactly.
Progress. Oh, you haven't? Here's a course. Right? That's so cool.
Yes. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun to kind of see that. And like I said, we're always developing kind of different things just because that's all a part of our development track that we're working to improve that platform.
I love it. And so you built this amazing company, and you've developed all these courses and this amazing technology, and it's really about helping people to break through, using like these coaches and these mentors, right? So,
yeah.
Through your journey, was there any point where you were stuck, where you had limiting beliefs, and a mentor or a coach gave you, some piece of advice that helped you break through to help you get to where you are today?
Yeah, that's another great question. So early on in my real estate investing career, I probably got started like 2004 and 5. And if you know the history back then, things were kind of jamming. It was pretty easy to kind of make money in real estate. And I got a little bit more aggressive and bought some more things. And then I was like, oh man, I'd like to learn about, development and land, and bought some land. And then all of a sudden 2007, 2008 happened. And, I had made some really good decisions in real estate, but also made some bad ones. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, do I really want to get in this again? And so I'd kind of focus more on the business, not as much in real estate investing. And then when I had the opportunity to start this company back in 2014, we started working specifically and only in personal development. And there was a couple of just thought leaders we worked with where I went to a lot of their events and worked with them and with some of their students, and just started to realize that, my goodness, I've kind of been holding myself back the last, 5 years, right? Because I bought into that, I just, whether it wasn't, I wasn't good enough in the real estate, or I'd made enough bad decisions that it probably wasn't a good thing to jump back into, and just helped shift my focus. So I don't know if it was any one thing or one moment, but it was definitely me working on the mindset side of things that helped me realize that I had been buying into those limiting beliefs, and that no better place to start than myself, and just shifting that as a learning opportunity, right? I mean, how awesome is it that I was able to learn through one of the worst real estate crashes we ever had, to know how to protect myself in the future, right? Rather than just like, oh, that stunk that I bought a property at X and it's worth this now. And I lost a lot of money. I paid a ton of money in interest, and I, tried to do the right thing, and I didn't have any foreclose on me, but man, what a nightmare, what a mess it was for a period of time. But at the same token, what an awesome learning experience that I was able to go through, and maybe help somebody else avoid a similar situation down the road. So yes, it was kind of that time frame, about that 5 or 6 year period of time from after I saw some of those things crash in real estate till about started this company and started working with just some amazing thought leaders, from Carl Moore to Joe Vitale to T. Harv Eker, and some of those that just were amazing to work with, and just being able to be around them at events and different things, and just realize it. And it was soon after that, I think 2017, 18, that we started working with Kiyosaki's group, not only doing the mindset for his kind of morning routine that he had, but also started doing some real estate. And it's like, game on, time to start doing some real estate again, real estate education.
Yeah. came down to like practice what you preach kind of thing.
Exactly.
I had a moment like that too, about 6-7 years ago, where I was like, yeah, we have this amazing technology, and I'm out there, everybody teaching. I'm out there, every day teaching people how to use it. I'm saying do these things, but I wasn't doing it myself.
Yeah.
And I felt like a hypocrite. So I was like, let's start to change things. So everybody has those moments, and it's different seasons, right? We sometimes really high on ourselves and we're really, high performing, and other times, the world happens, right? And things don't always work out the way we want them to. And those little limiting beliefs that we thought we conquered creep up, right?
Yeah.
They come from the depths, and they come back and catch us up. Well, Aaron, this has been an amazing talk, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that want to work with you. Who should connect with Achieve Today? If people are thinking, I want to work with Achieve Today, who are you looking to work with?
You know what? Anybody who is looking to start or hone their journey in personal, professional development, self-improvement, or in real estate. One of the things that kind of practice what we preach is we've been educating people in real estate for a long time. I've been doing real estate investing for a long time, that I just started to put together some educational real estate. So, I've got my YouTube channel, Aaron Peterson on Investing, where I have a lot of videos about kind of the things that I've learned in real estate, and also kind of a strategy that I've developed called cash flow flipping. If you go to cashflowflipping.com, it's kind of like a slow flip in real estate, but utilizing lease options. It's a pretty cool strategy and I wrote an ebook on it that people can get for free just on cashflowflipping.com. But anyway, it's been something so anybody that's looking to start their real estate journey or their self-improvement journey, we'd love to work with you, right? We feel like we can help individuals along that path.
And let's not forget the thought leaders, right? The mentors and the coaches.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That definitely want to, elevate their own teachings and focus on what they're good at.
Yes.
There's the real estate investing, and have your company do all the fulfillment and the sales and all the stuff on the back end that they just shouldn't be spending their time on anyway. It's not their highest and best use.
Right, 100%. So from the consumer side, if there's people listening that are just like, man, I want to get started in this, but absolutely, if it's a thought leader that's just like, man, I am getting a lot of people, or I'm starting to get people that are interested in learning more, but I don't want to be the one who sets up the sales part of my business, the fulfillment part of my business, because I know it's going to take me away from my first love, and it's going to distract me from generating hand raisers and people that are interested. And so, we can totally help in that side of the business, and do it in such a way that you feel like almost like no burden on your side, right? It's just automatically sending those hand raisers over to it, and we take it from there. We even handle all the customer service, all the tech support, everything from A to Z.
Amazing. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure to talk with you about all the cool things that you're doing. And I guarantee there's people who have listened to this that are inspired to take action. And hopefully everybody here will reach out to Aaron. Is it achievetoday.com?
Yeah. Yep. Aaron at achievetoday.com.
Awesome. Aaron at achievetoday.com. Go check it out. Appreciate everybody listening to this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. We got so many amazing guests like Aaron that are just moving and shaking, doing exciting things, everything from real estate investing to business to entrepreneurship. Go check it out, the channel. We also have an audio only version on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please subscribe to those as well. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Benson. You're the best, buddy.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.